And we had a very, very nice breakfast slash brunch this morning with so much food that I wanted to take a nap afterwards. But we got to try some of the local olives and the cheese and the homemade yogurts and all the different nice food from the region. Actually, I've been very impressed with the food on this trip.
I'm very happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Glad you liked it.
You're quite a foodie as well.
I am.
I haven't. When we started talking about food, your face lit up, and then you had so many stories.
I love eating. I love cooking. I'm quite proud of our cuisine because it's like a blend of the Mediterranean. Almost everything is local, and then it's infused with a bit of Middle Eastern, spices and herbs. So.
Yeah, it's a
Quite
different
like it.
mix. It's like Mediterranean, but it's got all these other influences, the Turkish and the...
Kebab is there, but then you've got the veggies too.
Yeah, and we were drinking Turkish tea, and they do Turkish coffee here, but then they had some of the desserts that were like completely, distinctly only Northern Cyprus style.
Absolutely, yeah. The country has its own identity, like we've been separate from the Ottomans for quite a while. And mixing with Armenians and Greeks over time, it's definitely infused. It has influenced food, culture, values, language to a great extent. Yeah.
Well, that's one of the interesting parts about the language as well, because there's a lot of English here as well. Like at the restaurants, at the hotels, walking around, at the gas station, like anything and everything, I was able to speak English with everybody. There was no problems whatsoever. But you also have your own language, and actually, maybe you can explain to everybody a little bit about the difference, because it's not Turkish, but it's...
Yeah, it belongs to the Turkic linguistic family, Turk that's spoken in Azerbaijan and Turkmenistan, but they all are different dialects, and the way we form the sentences are heavily influenced by the English, as we were a British colony, and the order of the sentence is like British, but the words we use is Turkish and Arabic and some Greek as well. It might be a little bit difficult for an mainland Turkish person to understand it easily, especially like the accent from like the Western coast. It's much thicker.
What about foreigners like Americans, Canadians wanting to come over here? Do you think they can learn some of the local language?
Sure, they can. But they don't need to, but they definitely can.
But they could.
Yeah, they can.
Do you think the locals would appreciate it, even if they learned a few phrases?
Yeah, it would be quite nice. Yeah, it's definitely an icebreaker.
Yeah.
Immediate smiles on faces.
I always recommend for expats to try to show respect to the local culture, and part of that is learning a little bit about the local language and the food and the history and the customs and these types of things. Like, our community is not like, digital nomad money, where you want to go somewhere and you just want to be in a tourist area and only talk to tourists. No, this is expats. That means being part of the local culture and learning and showing respect. I think that's a very, very, not just interesting part, but like one of the most rewarding parts of living overseas.
Yeah, absolutely. The simple stuff like thank you and, take care, even those will put a smile on everyone's faces. Yeah.
Well, and I've also noticed on this trip as well, the prices are really reasonable here. Like, is this gorgeous Mediterranean living, but super affordable, kind of like half the price of other Mediterranean places I've been to.
Absolutely, because most prices you spend day to day on like food, groceries, restaurants, it's all in Turkish lira, which, US dollar and Canadian dollar, it's very favorable exchange rates currently. We only use pounds, British pounds, with anything that comes with a title deed. So a car, like a vehicle or a house, and rent. So investments are protected with a hard currency and diversified, but your day-to-day spendings is in lira, so you're spending very little.
Amazing. And yeah, our international visa card has worked everywhere here. We haven't had any types of problems with that. We were talking about the banking. There's Turkish banks here, but you have local banks as well. There's SWIFT as well as IBAN, as well as you even was telling me you have your own UBAN system here. Yeah. So there's like this really interesting mix of, being a Commonwealth country that was by the Brits were in control, but then it's a secular Muslim country, and then it's European, Mediterranean, but it's not at the same time. It's like this super interesting dynamic going on here.
Yeah, melting pot right in
Yeah.
the middle of 3 continents. Yeah.
Well, and even we were talking this morning that you looked around, there was some Polish, some Russian, some Arabic, there was locals, there's Canadian, and there's people from all over the world, and everyone's getting along. There's no problems here, very
Absolutely.
safe. And
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's all fun and
Mm-hmm.
what's not to like about it.
Well, and then maybe you quickly talk on the safety, because I think that's an important piece too. We were yesterday talking to someone and they were talking about the safety. Maybe explain that a little bit.
Yeah, Cyprus ranked top 5. It's the 5th safest country. Because we're an island and it's such a small population, and the sense of community and, care, people kind of look out for one another, and obviously it's frowned upon, and that deters people,
Well, and then I would guess as well, because it's a close-knit community as well, so a lot of families and things like this.
Absolutely.
So they don't stand for that kind of hooligan behavior or bad behavior. We don't have.
Yeah. There's shame.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, of course, but in a good way. Like, it builds community, it builds respect, and that's why we don't have much crime. Also, the familiar ties are much stronger, and it lasts for much longer. Like, it's normal for people to keep in touch with the extended family, not just the immediate family.
Sure.
And that making them proud is actually quite important. Yeah.
That's amazing.